Today we're rating modern retro bikes from worst to best in our buyer's guide for 2026, because this is the most slept on category in motorcycling. With these bikes you get something with classic old school looks, but with modern components. It's like being able to buy a resto mod car directly from the factory. I mean, it would be totally unthinkable. In this category, you can get something fun, stylish, and reliable with classic looks without having to worry about old school problems. Today, we're going to list them out from worst to best based on fun, value, authenticity, and that hard to define look back factor. The worst bike on the list today isn't necessarily bad, and many near the top won't be perfect either. That's the beauty of the modern classic. Let's jump in with the worst bike for today, the Suzuki GSX-8T and TT. If you've been watching the channel for the last 6 months or so, you've probably heard me talk about Suzuki's new low T and double T skins for their GSX 8S platform. And I've got bad news for the Suzuki simps out there. My opinion has not changed for 2026. These bikes are Suzuki trying really hard to offer a modern classic, but coming in like 10 years late. Mechanically, the GSX-8T and TT are built on a solid foundation. They use Suzuki's wholly modern parallel twin engine, the same one found in the 8S, 8R, and V-Strom 800 models. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's torquey, linear, reliable, and versatile. All the things you'd want out of a workhorse engine. And in the 8T and TT, it's paired with a genuinely competent chassis as well, with inverted forks, decent brakes, and contemporary electronics. On paper, sure, yeah, it's a fine bike, but actually looking at this thing, it just comes across, well, sort of wrong. The 8TT leans very hard into the retro racer cosplay with the little headlight cowl, the belly pan, and the dorky 8-ball decal on the side. I mean, imagine if you showed up anywhere in 2026 with a big 8-ball embroidered on the back of your leather jacket. You'd get a few giggles and whispers behind your back. So why is it okay for your motorcycle to have the same look? It just feels inauthentic and a little silly. The low T version is simpler, but still feels like a modern naked bike wearing a DLC retro vibe skin. The real issue with these bikes is the price. They're really overpriced for what they are. The 8TT costs over $11,000, which is more than an XSR 900, which is certainly a step or two above the Suzuki in performance. And while it may not come in bloody brilliant British racing green, the Hornet 750 does cost less than $8,000. So I don't know why Suzuki seems to think they have the right to price these bikes the way they do. This bike is best for Suzuki stans who don't care about money and like green. It's not for someone who wants authenticity, style, or value, so it's last place for today. Moving right along to the next bike on the list, that is the Royal Enfield Continental and nineT 650 models. These bikes are really impossible to hate on too much. I mean, I used to not like them, and then I rode one, I owned one, I gave one away, and honestly, they're the best bang for buck on the list for sure. And if you want authentic mechanical simplicity, you'll find it here too. These bikes are genuinely charming and interesting. Both of these bikes are fundamentally similar besides some styling choices. They are both using the 648cc air-cooled parallel twin that's torquey, simple, and full of old school flavor. You don't have ride modes or traction control or any of that nonsense, just a smooth, friendly engine in a classic chassis. The nineT 650 has a more upright, everyday roadster riding posture, whereas the Continental GT has more of that cafe racer feel with the rear cowl and clip-on handlebars. These bikes definitely offer the best value in this category. Honest machines with classic looks and zero pretense, and a price tag that is very easy to stomach. Each bike, depending on the paint scheme, costs between $6,000 and $6,500, which is like a fifth of what you get an R9T for. And the Continental even comes in British racing green. So take that, Suzuki! The main fault of these bikes is they're just a little bit plain, a little underwhelming depending on what you're looking for. Everything works, but it's all very basic. The riding experience is pleasant, albeit a little bit unexciting. These bikes are best for beginners or newly minted intermediate riders or budget-conscious riders who want something pretty authentically retro without breaking the bank. It's not for a rider who wants something particularly premium or performance-oriented. The Royal Enfield 650s don't elicit butterflies the way that some of the other bikes on today's video are going to. If you're looking for something substantial or something special, you'll have to stick around for our other recommendations. I don't really like the BMW R9T or the BMW Boxer engines in general, so sue me. But for the sake of a comprehensive category overview, it must be discussed. Because this bike is kind of the modern representation of those classic BMW Airhead Cafe racers you used to see. But the R9T is a sterile, clinical, modern version of that. The engine is at the forefront of this machine. I mean, it's pretty hard to ignore with the cylinder head sticking out horizontally from the frame. It's interesting, sure, but it's borderline agricultural. Lots of torque, low center of gravity, cool, I get it, shaft drive, and the dry clutch are pretty interesting too, but it's a BMW, and it's very expensive. The R9T could be priced upwards of $30,000 depending on how you option it out with BMW Farkles. And that's just a whole lot of money for a motorcycle of this style. But hey, some riders want premium, and I guess that's what you get. BMW badging, adjustable suspension, Brembo's full-blown rider aids, it's all there. This bike is for riders who are probably maybe on their second or third divorce, who want a premium experience but think they're too cool for a GS. It's not for people who don't jive with the Boxer engines or want to maximize the value of their dollar, so it finds itself in the list here today. The Yamaha XSR 700 and XSR 900 are barely retro, but I suppose that's kind of the point. If you think about modern and retro, they lean pretty far towards modern. They're not trying to be nostalgic or charming. Yamaha just knew that the dark side of Japan styling on the MT bikes was going to turn away some customers, so they put a new tank, seat, and headlight on them and called them the XSR. They are Yamaha motorcycles for guys who own DSLR cameras and love to use them and post them on Instagram. The XSR 700 uses Yamaha's famed CP2 engine. It's light, playful, downright bulletproof. It slots perfectly into the beginner plus or intermediate minus categories. The XSR 900 uses a CP3 triple from the MT09, which at this point has become pretty legendary, and it means the front wheel is pretty much allergic to the ground. In a fun twist of events, the XSR 900 is actually cheaper than the base model MT09, making it one of the best value middleweight bikes on the market that isn't made in China, which makes it even harder to understand Suzuki's strategy with the 8TT, but I digress. The XSRs don't look or feel vintage, they're just modern with a little more style. They only land mid-pack because the retro appeal isn't as strong as many of the other bikes on the list for today. The XSR is for someone who is shopping for performance first and aesthetic second. They're not for vintage retro purists who want baristas to ogle their bikes parked outside of the cafe. But boy, they are rowdy and they are fun. The Ducati Scramblers are kind of funny little bikes. They barely qualify as Ducatis, almost marketed as an entirely separate brand. But they're also more authentically Ducati than many of their modern bikes. You got the air-cooled L-twin equipped with Desmos and a trellis frame, which already puts it ahead of many retro bikes on the list whose retroness is far more superficial. However, recent changes to the Scrambler lineup are hurting its standing. The new TFT dash chips away at the vintage vibe. The loss of the 1100cc models removed some of the gravitas. The removal of the Desert Sled in particular, to me, feels like a step backwards in the lineup's personality. Drop a comment down below if you want to see the Desert Sled make a triumphant comeback in 2026. Come on, Ducati, what are you doing? Still, the Ducati Scramblers are fun, charismatic, and characterful. You can feel the old school Ducati DNA emanating from them. These bikes are best for people who want that retro Italian character without the financial commitment of real Ducati ownership experiences. It's not for someone who wants the polish of a BMW or a Triumph or the performance of a Yamaha. You'll just have to be okay with being treated like a second-class Ducatisti because in the world of Bologna, that's what Scrambler owners are. Ask me how I know. Up to this point, every motorcycle on the list was theoretically retro. The Moto Guzzi V7 is authentically retro. It's pretty much everything that people like about this category in an all-encompassing package. It has an air-cooled transverse V-twin that is unlike any other engine ever made. It looks cool, it sounds cool, it has a great torquey feel. It uses a shaft drive, which is old school and low maintenance. It's mechanically honest with unmistakable identity and style. Nearly every other retro bike is a modern bike reversed engineered to be retro. The V7 is just the modern iteration of what Guzzi has always been known for. It's a direct link to the past with modern rideability and ease of ownership. Nothing else feels like a Guzzi. The engine rocks side to side, the power delivery is smooth but characterful, it has presence and substance. The V7 is operating on a level of retro that 80% of modern retro bikes can only aspire to. It's best for riders who want character, authenticity, and torque above all else. It is not for spec sheet warriors or adrenaline junkies, but if you fall into the former camp, this V7 Sport is our current giveaway bike at YamahaEdu.co. You can head over there and learn more about how you can earn entries to win this V7. And if you want a super comprehensive overview of this particular model, check out our full in-depth review listed in the description below. The Kawasaki Z900RS is about as close to a modern UJM as you can get. It finds itself pretty high on the list because it melds character and performance pretty much perfectly, and as a result has pretty widespread appeal. It has the smoothness of an inline four, a classic silhouette, modern Japanese reliability, and it even has a twin analog gauge cluster, which I really appreciate. It looks the part, it sounds the part. One of its faults might just be how closely Kawasaki colored inside the lines with this bike. It's very safe, tame, and predictable, but for some people, that might be a selling point, you know? It also provides pretty great value, costing less than $13,000 for a 4-cylinder machine that makes some pretty proper horsepower figures. The 2026 model actually has some new features like an IMU and cruise control. Pretty sweet stuff. This bike is best for riders that want that classic Japanese UJM vibe with very modern refinement. It's not for those seeking eccentric character or personality in their motorcycles. It's certainly the distillation of perfection in a UJM for those who either lived through the era or wished that they did. Finally, we come to the inevitable conclusion that we always reach in a modern classic shootout. The last bikes on the list today are the Triumph Bonneville T120 and Speed Twin 1200. Triumph pretty much owns the modern classic category. It's just a fact. They basically invented this category, and it's really their bread and butter, and these motorcycles support that fact. The Bonnie is the gold standard for retro bikes. It has a timeless British roadster aesthetic with a modern but characterful engine. It has Triumph brand cachet, curb appeal, and serious presence. It's the bike that maximizes nostalgia and modern usability, all wrapped up in a package that makes sense for a modern rider. The Speed Twin shares much of that same DNA and sharpens it for even more performance. It has that same classic British DNA, but is composed with sportier intent. And truthfully, it's probably my favorite bike on the list today. But despite its performance chops, it still has a classic retro silhouette. Together, these two bikes anchor either end of the modern retro spectrum. The Bonneville is for the retro romantic. The Speed Twin is for someone who wants a bike with as much style as performance. These bikes are best for people that want to go straight to the source. It's not for people who hate being correct. All right, boys, there you have it, a comprehensive breakdown of the best modern retro bikes for 2026. If you want to get entered to win this Moto Guzzi V7 Sport, head to YamahaEdu.co to purchase some merch or a membership to earn automatic entries. This is a really interesting motorcycle, and I think anybody who really loves motorcycles at their core can find some joy in the experience. And I'm already hearing you say it. Yeah, you love this thing, but you don't love BMW? Make it make sense! Sometimes things just don't. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. I will see you later.